This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Good to have you on a Wednesday night. The Huddle back at it tonight. Enjoying the evening. Hopefully you are as well. We got a lot to talk about. One of the topics is, what would a Jordan Love extension look like at this point? If you think that Love is going to be the man, at what point do you think that a Jordan Love extension then would be signed, and what would that look like? Because I think you're going to come up on that question maybe sooner rather than later. If he continues to play this way, then you've got the decision to make. We talked a little bit about it earlier today. We've got the decision to make, and that is that, hey, Joe Barry, he's playing out his contract. You got a decision, because if you decide to keep him, then when you keep him, you'll probably end up giving him a multi-year deal. And maybe you don't. After this season, in which, for the most part, his defense has really not been the costly factor in some of these games, do you give him another opportunity? So we got that to talk about. And then obviously the Green Bay Packers getting ready for the New York Giants coming up on Monday night. So they get the extra day of rest, and they'll be back at it again tomorrow. Tomorrow will be their Wednesday, which is on a Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so to speak. And then they jet off to New York, over to the Big Apple, to Meadowlands, and they take on the Giants. Monday Night Football, which now becomes a bigger game and a better game, because the Giants are coming back off a bye. The Packers obviously are coming out of two tremendous wins. And now you wait and see. Now you wait and see if the Packers continue up this vaunted hill that they dug themselves into early on at the base of, and they're climbing out of it, steadily climbing out of it. Now they get another win. They're better than 67% right now of getting into the postseason. So there you have it. You want to get hold of us, 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. That's the way to find us, 877-867-1670. And then again, if you want to touch base with us any other way, you can via, say, the email address, which is thebillmichaels@gmail.com, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. And we kind of go from there. Good stuff. Grant Bill's just finished 47 hours today. Grant Bill, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. We had some good Badger basketball talk. We had Zach Heilprin on tonight, so anytime I can talk Badger sports with Zach, I have a good time. So we were celebrating Greg Gard and his team just a little bit on my show tonight.
Yep. So Greg Gard, obviously a good couple of wins under their belt. Absolutely. I mean, we talked about expectations earlier today when it comes to Badger basketball. So top five, maybe a Sweet 16 to run in the tournament, at least a win or two. And kind of go from there. So excited about Badger basketball again as well. This one's from Dwayne. Dwayne says, hey, guys, contract extension would probably be $30 to $50 million guaranteed if you're going to pay Jordan Love. But what would the salary be each season? We don't want to handcuff the team the way Rodgers did. No, you're not going to. Because, here's the reason why. The Jordan Love contract, if indeed you go in that direction, the Jordan Love contract is not going to have, because remember when Rodgers signed that last deal or two, he'd already had a Super Bowl under his belt, more than a few NFC championships under his belt. He'd had that. If I'm going to be the Packers, if indeed you believe at the end of the season Jordan Love's a real deal, or at least going to be your quarterback moving forward, but you're still not paying him like some kind of a seasoned veteran with a ton of wins under his belt. You know, my guess would be 12 to 15, maybe 20 million a year tops in that area. And that keeps it team friendly. He still makes money. He'll still be, at some point set up for the rest of his life. He'll still make money, good money. Be the quarterback, still with another opportunity to get another bite at the apple down the road. And then you give him the guaranteed money of, 30, 50 million, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit more if you have to, but, and then you move on. And then at least you're set for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And then you were able to fill in with pieces around him to be able to fortify that team. And in the next couple of years, a lot of the bigger money will be gone off the books. And that usually, if everybody starts to come of age, if you've got the wide receiving corps, they start to come of age. The tight end companions, if they start to come of age, your quarterback starts to come of age. Some of the youth on your defense starts to come of age, and you have some veterans that you fill it in with all at the same time. That's usually a recipe for good success in the postseason. For good regular season success, but then good success in the postseason. So there you go. Rick says, he'll get more than $20 million. Look at what Daniel Jones got, and he sucks. I don't know how much more, though. And that's just it. You take a page out of we're not going to overpay for a guy we're really not sure of yet. Daniel Jones had one good year. Yes, he set the bar, but the Packers could say, we're going to do this. We'll sweeten the pot a little bit, but that's about the extent of it. Or you just guarantee more money up front. That's the way you would do it.
I don't know that Daniel Jones, by the way, the Giants had a great year.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones last year didn't he have 16 or 17 touchdowns? I'm pulling up his stats right now. He was winning. The Giants were winning. But in 2022 last year, he played 16 games and he had 15 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So the Giants were winning. I don't know that Daniel Jones had a good year. He was the quarterback on a good team.
He had a year what was his interception ratio? 15 touchdowns. How many interceptions?
Only 5 interceptions.
Right.
Yeah, 15-5.
He moved the chains. But Saquon Barkley was their offense. There's no doubt about that. He moved the chains. So that's what he got paid for, and he was able to operate the offense because they had a lot of doubts as to whether or not he was going to be the guy, and he moved the chains. But Saquon, clearly that offense went through Saquon Barkley in the run game. All the run game did was set up the ability for Daniel Jones to throw the football. And he was, again, 15 touchdowns. So he had a couple of games where didn't throw one, but for the most part, he's throwing a touchdown a game, and had a decent postseason against the Vikings and was able to help, Dable get the win in Minnesota. And that's what the building block was. Oh, by the way, this is a team ready to go, and they're a complete team. They can run the ball. They've got decent tight ends. They've got decent wideouts. They got a decent quarterback, but they're just going to churn out yards. And this year it was just woefully inadequate. So, Mark Schofield, SB Nation, joined us earlier today. Now, this was around the NFL. I want you to get, in case you missed this, or maybe you weren't listening earlier today, Mark Schofield, we always have a great and spirited discussion when it comes to the rest of the NFL. Mark Schofield, SB Nation, a little bit earlier today, had a chance to catch up with him. And I just started out, saying, Mark, how are we looking?
Some really good matchups this week, Bill, and it is great to be back with you. Always excited to chop it up each Wednesday. And you're right, we've got, as the season winds down, obviously the games take on a little bit more importance, but we've got some incredible games this week on the docket. So really excited to start talking about these games.
So first and foremost, obviously the Green Bay Packers. Let's go back to that. They get a win over Kansas City. You and I both thought that was going to be an incredibly tough task, and instead they made it. I'm not going to say made it look easy, but they did it with a lot more verve and vigor than I thought they could. Give me your impression of Green Bay right now.
It was an extremely impressive win, and this has been an extremely impressive stretch of football from this team. And I think there's a lot of different directions we can take the conversation from there. But this was a statement kind of win, because we talked last week, did the Packers have to win this game? And sort of where we came down on it was no, they had to play well. They had to, as I said last week, keep this as sort of a one-score game. And I brought up a comparison, sort of that 2001 game. It was a Sunday night game as well between the Patriots and the Rams, when the Patriots were sort of figuring out where they were as a team, and they held the Rams to just a one-score loss. And they came out of that game believing, hey, we can play it. So that's what I said. I said that was sort of the benchmark. If you have this game Sunday night against the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that we expect to make another deep playoff run, a team that's coming off another Super Bowl, and even if you lose, but you play well and it's sort of a one-score loss, that's a jumping block kind of game. Instead, they won. And so it was a massive effort from this team. And now, you mentioned that they're in, as of right now, you look at their schedule coming up. It's a favorable schedule. This was a big test. They won it. And then it's an even bigger springboard having won that game than it could have been, even if it was just a one-score loss.
Yeah, 67% now to actually make the postseason. Now, I mean, to most Packers fans, it's just getting there, which would be great because most likely they're going to end up facing either Philadelphia or San Francisco, which is a whole other discussion. But with 5 games remaining and all of them against teams that they should be favored against, maybe they're not favored going into U.S. Bank Stadium, depending on what the Vikings do. But for the most part, they should be favored in all of these games coming up. They have the easiest way to the postseason right now out of any other NFL team when it comes to schedule. So I agree with you. Now, we've got stuff all over because you got the Vikings that are trying to stay within this thing. You've had the Lions, and since they played the Packers the week before and the week after, they've scuffled a little bit. I don't know if they're as good or if they're just kind of as cruise control goes. I mean, then you've got quarterbacks going down. Trevor Lawrence goes down with the ugly high ankle sprain. Joe Burrow, as we always know, is out the rest of the season. They've lost their quarterback in Indianapolis. I mean, they're playing this week. So there's so many things to get into. Right now in the NFL, though, with what San Francisco did to Philadelphia and Philadelphia now going into Dallas, how big is that turnaround between those 3 teams right now for the top spot in the NFC?
It's massive. I mean, this is a critical test now for the Philadelphia Eagles to come off of that game. Now you've got to go to Dallas, and the door is open now for the Cowboys to take over in the East. You know, if the Cowboys win this game, they're in first place in the East thanks to tiebreakers. Now, there's also a scenario where, you know, Dallas wins this game Sunday night. The 2 teams win out the rest of their games. That would see Philadelphia creep back into the first spot in the East, thanks to tiebreakers and, I think, conference play. But the door is now open for Dallas. And so that's obviously a critical game. But I think we have to talk about the 49ers right now because as far as statement games go, that was it. To come into Philadelphia after all that was said and all the talk that we've heard from that 49ers team since that NFC Championship game about, well, if Purdy was healthy, we would have won. And if this had happened, we would have won. To back that up and not just win this game, but win going away, win in absolute convincing fashion. You talk about the NFC and where things stand. Those are the 3 teams. And look what San Francisco has done to both of those teams this year. They blew out the Cowboys earlier this year. Now they've blown out the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe they don't end up first in the NFC, but it doesn't matter because they proved Sunday that they can go into a place like Philadelphia and beat a team like that in convincing fashion on the road. They seem like a team right now that will line up anywhere, play anyone, and play extremely good football against them. Now, there's still a lot of football left to be played, but that was as convincing of a win as it has been basically since they did it to Dallas. And so the 49ers are scary. The addition of Chase Young has made them so formidable up front. They have the weapons that we've talked about all season long. And yes, Brock Purdy is playing extremely good football right now. They are, in my mind, even though they're not in the top spot of the NFC, right now they're the team to beat in the conference.
It's hard to believe that team, which has now won 4 straight, lost 3 straight going into the bye. You know what I mean? It's hard to believe that they got beat.
It's very confusing. It's been a confusing year. And, you know, that team that we saw this past Sunday was not the team that, like you said, lost 3 straight games. I mean, there was a brief moment in time where with those 3 losses going into the bye, we were wondering, okay, are they going to collapse? Like, is this going to spin wildly out of control? No, absolutely not. They've more than just righted the ship. They've righted the ship and driven it through anywhere they want to put it right now. They've been very impressive recently. They were certainly impressive this past week. And it's hard to see them slowing down. Again, a lot of football left to be played. Lots of things can happen. But right now, they look so impressive.
Then you go to the opposite side. By the way, we're talking with Mark Schofield of SB Nation. You can find his stuff there. You've got over in the AFC, you know, it's kind of you always figured it was Kansas City's, you know, conference to lose. And now they've lost 4 games on the season. Miami's 9-3. Pittsburgh is hanging around for whatever reason, but they're not that good. Baltimore's good at 9-3. The Jacksonville Jaguars are good at 8-4, but I don't know how long you're going to see Trevor Lawrence that's down. And it's just, I look at this right, and Denver's been on the come for a while, even though they lost last week. Who's the best team over in the AFC right now?
I don't know. I mean, I think you could probably make a case for a number of different teams. I mean, I think you could probably make a case for the Baltimore Ravens, given what they can do on both sides of the ball, given the way that they've been able to scheme up pressure with Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator, to get after you. I think you can look at the Miami Dolphins and say, okay, well, that's the most explosive offense in football. And while he might not win it, Tyreek Hill certainly has a case for some MVP votes and looks to be on track and is on pace to break the all-time receiving yardage record. And with what they can do on offense, they're so tough to defend. They can put you in a bind. And those two teams play in a couple of weeks. And that's going to be obviously a fascinating game to watch, both in terms of AFC playoff picture as well as just the X's and O's that we're going to see on the field in that game. The Chiefs are just hard to figure out, because you would think most years you've got Patrick Mahomes, you've got Travis Kelce, you're going to be okay. And especially this season, it seems like their defense has taken a big step forward as compared to years past, when it was, put up points in bunches and hope the defense does enough. The defense is holding up their end of the bargain right now, but the offense seems to be out of sync. They don't have receivers that can win sort of over the middle other than Travis Kelce. They've got a lot of receivers who can sort of win on the outside and win with manufactured touches. But, when you've got the ability as a defense to sort of bracket or double Travis Kelce, and then you don't have to worry about anybody else in the middle of the field, and you can focus your attention outside, it makes things easier. So there's some questions to answer on the offensive side of the ball, which is not something we're used to saying about this Chiefs team. Jacksonville seemed like they could have made a run here, and had they won Monday night, they would have been in the top spot in the AFC due to tiebreakers. Now you not only have the loss, which drops you down to fourth in the conference, but you get the high ankle sprain for Trevor Lawrence. And their next two games, Bill, Cleveland and Baltimore, two teams that can get after the quarterback. And if Lawrence can't move back there, that's going to be a tough ask for them. We've gone to thinking that maybe Jacksonville could be the top seeds. Now wondering, hey, the Colts, the Texans, they're coming. Could Jacksonville potentially slip out of the playoffs? And so I think it's between Miami and Baltimore right now, but a lot of these teams have more questions than answers.
You got the Bills, who have been up and down all season long. Big game. They're going into Kansas City. Kansas City coming off of the loss to the Packers. The Bills, they have their own issues because they have not been able to put it on track consistently this year. And now Von Miller's got the legal issues where they're, kind of a team distraction, so to speak, with a domestic violence charge. Talk about the importance of this game, not so much for Kansas City, because I still believe Kansas City is going to be there and they're going to be okay. But how big of a game is this for the Bills?
It's a massive game for the Bills. I mean, beyond the sort of, this is the Bills-Chiefs, it's becoming one of the game's better rivalries. You've got two teams ahead of you right now in the standings in Houston and Denver. Like, you can't afford to be losing games. You can't afford to be in a situation with the season winding down, waiting any longer to make your move. It has to start right now because Buffalo's got a very interesting schedule down the stretch. This game is obviously critical for their playoff standings and the playoff picture, but you've got to get ahead of teams. And it doesn't get easier after this week. You've got Dallas the following week. And so you can't be giving games away. Yes, they've got some favorable games down the stretch. They've got, the Patriots, who seem to be scuffling, obviously, but you get the Chargers. Okay, you could probably win that game. You close out with Miami, down in Miami, which has been a tough place for teams to play at that point of the season, particularly a Northeastern team coming down to Miami with the weather you're going to be encountering. Those are three very tough games left on their schedule with the Chiefs this week, the Cowboys, and the Dolphins. And they need wins because you've got to keep pace with some teams ahead of you. You drop this, your chances of making the playoffs take a huge hit. They need a win this weekend against a team that also needs a win and is looking to come back off of a loss, and they're playing like this is a massive game for Buffalo.
And you talk about the Patriots. You mentioned them. Now, the Steelers are 7-5. Kenny Pickett goes down, needs surgery on a high ankle sprain, so they're with a backup quarterback. Their offense isn't very good. They fire their offensive coordinator. It seems to have gotten a little better play calling wise, but then they lose their quarterback. But they're taking on a terrible team in the Patriots coming up on Thursday night. Two storied, head coaches as well. Should we be talking more and more about Bill Belichick and what the rest of his career is going to look like? I got to think at the end of the season, Robert Kraft has a conversation that says either you give up the GM duties or I got to let you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that conversation is coming, and I would imagine that Bill Belichick, sort of from the Parcells school of, you want me to cook dinner, let me buy the groceries, is not going to be taking kindly to that suggestion that he give up the GM duties. This is a Patriots team that has lost 3 straight games despite allowing 10 or fewer points. That's the first time that's happened since 1938. I mean, this is the kind of year we're having in New England. This is a team that cannot get anything done on offense right now. Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Malik Wilgreer, doesn't matter. They can't do anything on offense. And it starts with missing on the quarterback. And it seems like that's what they did with Mac Jones. And it gets to your point of Bill Belichick, the general manager. When you've missed on the quarterback pick, like it seems they've done with Mac Jones, when you miss on an entire draft, I mean, their entire 2019 draft class is not with the organization. And a lot of those players aren't even in football right now. That's going to set you back years. And that bill has now come due for Belichick in New England. Now, maybe the conversation goes along the lines of, okay, look, I'll give up GM duties, but if we're picking 1, if we're picking 2, none of this trade back stuff, none of this, give up the pick or draft an offensive tackle, get the quarterback. Whether it's Drake May or Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, whoever you like, get your quarterback at 1 or 2, and you can keep that GM title. Maybe that's the way this goes. But a hard conversation between Bill and Robert is coming soon.
I look at, because I know Bill Belichick wants that record. And if that's the reason you're staying in coaching, then you probably shouldn't be coaching. However, it's at least 3 years away from him getting the record. You would assume, unless he just rolls the table in a couple, whatever he does over the next 2 years, it's at least 3 years, 4 years away. That's going to put him at 75 years old. I can't see that. I can't see guys coming into the league at 20 years old, 21, 22, 23, looking at a guy at 75 going, oh, yeah, this guy's got my attention.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that. And it's not as if this was the Patriots organization, say, 6 years ago, where he can put his hand on the desk in front while meeting with a player and have a bunch of Super Bowl rings to show off. That's a bit more in the past now. This isn't the same Patriots organization. And the big draw of those years was not just the winning, but the quarterback. And you don't have the ability to go into a free agent's, a free agent pitch, or even talking to a draft prospect and say, hey, you're going to get a chance to play with Tom Brady. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered in New England. And I think you're right. He does want to set that record, but they got a long road to climb out of here. And even if they get all their decisions right, it might take 3-4 years. Maybe we see him set that record, but somewhere else. I mean, as I said, there are some hard conversations coming, and right now it's hard to see him in New England next year, absent some major changes that he agrees to.
You look at, real quick before I let you go, you look at the MVP race. CJ Stroud is going to be the rookie of the year. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but he could be in the consideration for an MVP. Brock Purdy is getting a lot of attention. Lamar Jackson's getting a lot of attention. Should Tyreek Hill and what he's doing be getting a lot of attention?
I think so. I think so, because we all know that MVP has become sort of a de facto QB award. But you look at, a lot of the quarterbacks that are sort of in the mix for it, there's pros and cons for them, whether it's sort of Jalen Hurts and a lot of his production is coming, via the run game and the brotherly shove or whatever you want to call that play. You look at Brock Purdy, and yes, he's certainly running that offense extremely well and has elevated that 49ers offense beyond what it was with Garoppolo, but we got a lot of help around him. And then you look at what Tyreek Hill does, both with the football and without, because there are times when he creates opportunities for teammates because he's got a safety over the top or he's getting double covered. And he's created so many explosive plays for that team this year. If Miami goes on to be the top seed in the AFC, I don't know if he'll win it, but he should certainly get a ton of votes.
Always great to talk to you, Mark. I appreciate it. It's going to be a hell of a weekend in the NFL, and I'm looking forward to next week already, pal. I appreciate it.
As am I, Bill. Always a blast. Thanks so much. Enjoy the games this weekend.
There you go. Mark Schofield from SB Nation. You can find him at Mark Schofield, Schofield. Always good to chat with him and always good to run around the NFL and chat a little bit about that as well. We are woefully late for break, but that's okay because we're going to be right back. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up, and it's coming up right after this. Stay tuned.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. You kind of wonder. I'll tell you this. I was watching today, this afternoon, all the discussion about the quarterbacks that have gone down. I just wonder at what point the NFL is going to try to put flags on quarterbacks. Because they're talking about the marquee quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson. They're all gone for the season. Anthony Richardson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Daniel Jones, Kenny Pickett. They have all lost time on their rosters, along with Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, and Justin Fields. They've all had day one starters who have missed significant time due to injury as well. So you just wonder if there's going to be a point where, and I'm not in favor of it. Let me say that right away. I'm not in favor of it. But you got to wonder if at some point the league's going to say we need those stars, those dictators of the game on the field, and I don't know what else to do. You've tried to protect them as much as you can without putting flags on them, and you know it's football, man. Start developing other quarterbacks. Start developing young guys. So you've got somebody, a bona fide maybe a backup quarterback in the NFL starts to become a more paid option, because you may never see the field. But when your guy goes down specifically for a long period of time, and if your team is in contention, you got to have somebody good under center. You just do. You know, now you're going to get a guy like, Jacksonville turning to C.J. Beathard to hopefully get them a win this weekend. You know, Miami and Baltimore still are above them. Had they won last night, had Jacksonville won not last night, but on Monday night, Jacksonville would have been the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. Losing, they're now behind Miami and Baltimore. And don't forget, in their own division, they've got Houston and Indianapolis now a game behind them. And they've got tough games coming up against the Browns and the Ravens in back-to-back weeks. So heck of a time for Trevor Lawrence to go down with a high ankle sprain and C.J. Beathard to come in. And then you got Jake Browning over in Cincinnati. He's trying to get it done because they know Joe Burrow's not coming back at any point in time. So, it just a lot of talk about quarterbacks and their injuries. And, yeah, it's a shame. Luck of the draw, could be just a bad year, but I don't care. I don't mean to sound callous, but I don't care. Aaron Rodgers it wasn't really it wasn't like he got crushed and broke a collarbone. He just got spun around and his Achilles snapped. Joe Burrow popped a tendon in his thumb. Kirk Cousins wasn't doing anything but dropping back and starting to run. Blew out his Achilles. Anthony Richardson. He also tweaked an ankle in doing that. Jimmy Garoppolo. Some of these injuries, Kenny Pickett, obviously with a high ankle sprain that needed surgery, but some of these injuries weren't even really injuries due to heavy physical contact. I don't know how you're going to outlaw that out of the game. I really don't. All right, let's do this. When we come back, we're going to talk. We went a little bit long in the first segment. When we come back, Mike Clemens is going to join us. We'll talk with Mike a little bit about, obviously the Packers getting ready to get back on the practice field tomorrow and get ready for the New York Giants coming up on Monday night. Stay tuned. We got another hour and a half yet to go. A lot more. The Bill Michaels Huddle coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Love actually has played really well the last month or so. Into the air on first down. He's going to swing it out to the check down. Nice move by Dillon in space. Beautiful run to the 47-yard line. As we have an injury on the sideline, another Chief is hurt. Brian Cook, the safety, and the Chiefs medical staff across the field to look at him. It's been a tough night for Kansas City.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
Kansas City couldn't get out of Lambeau Field quick enough. The return of Andy Reid back to where it kind of began for him. And then in addition to that, all the injuries begin to mount. Then they end up losing the game. And we got Mike Clemens, our guy, on the line with us. Brought to you by our friends at the Bay Motel in Green Bay. Bay Motel, quiet, cozy, comfortable, just a mile from Lambeau Field. Perfect for that family stay in the Bay Family Restaurant, home-style cooking 7 days a week. That's the Bay Motel on South Military Avenue in Green Bay. Call them today for reservations. 920-494-3441, 920-494-3441, or go to baymotelgreenbay.com. There you go. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I wanted to talk about some of the refereeing calls because I've heard people, call in and complain about that for things that went with both teams. Do you think that's, we're talking about this every year, and I think we still think back to that play a couple of years ago where the Saints got robbed on a pass interference call, right? And the Rams were able to get by and go on. And they claim they're going to change and do things to help out with those kinds of calls that could determine a game with replay. And it doesn't seem to be solved, does it?
No, I completely agree with you. Now, here's the thing, Mike, and I heard this all about the call that wasn't via the pass interference. Like, that needs to be reviewable. You should be able to throw a flag for that. I'm just done with, refereeing that needs to be overseen constantly. How many times have we seen a Hail Mary go up and they beat each other up and then the ball falls harmlessly to the ground? It's like, leave it alone. It was probably blatant pass interference, but the hit that, Patrick Mahomes took before he went out of bounds, that shouldn't have been a penalty either.
Watch an old football game from the 90s during the Brett Favre era, just the actual broadcast. Let's sit there on YouTube, and within about 5 or 10 minutes, you're going to say to yourself, wow, no penalty replays.
Yeah.
It's a faster, more enjoyable game.
Yep.
And John Madden can do his thing because he's not constantly dissecting frame by frame on, is that a touchdown? Is that a catch? Is that a face? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
And yet, Bill, I get the feeling that the NFL, besides worried about safety, fairness, dealing with the speed of the game, still letting referees make these calls so there's a human element.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I don't think the NFL cares.
Right.
I think they love the controversy. And you know what? You're going to get robbed every once in a while because this makes the game more fun. I honestly think that that's the way these guys think.
Right.
Otherwise, they could solve these problems. We talked to Matt LaFleur lately. These press conferences after the day or so after a game, they're not really press conferences. They're more like conversations. So where's Matt LaFleur in this? When he deals with that Brad Allen crew again, and Brad and his guys came to camp 2 or 3 years ago, and he's a by-the-book guy, but you just know in some of the games it gets ticky-tacky.
Mm-hmm.
So we asked LaFleur, how frustrated are you when the replay shows that Jonathan Owens did not late hit Patrick Mahomes that should have been counted as just pushed out of bounds?
That's a great question for whoever's in charge, for Commissioner Goodell, I guess.
It's your team. Easy could have lost the game because of a stupid mistake, right?
Yeah, that's every week, right? I mean, like, seriously, there's some of these calls they're tough, and I get it. The game is played at an incredible rate. I mean, the speed of the game is pretty fast when you're down there, and they're not easy calls, and they got a tough job, and yeah.
He's saying all the right things, and they got a tough job, and they're not easy calls, and he just, and again, every coach will tell you, he'll probably tell you, don't allow your game to come down to a bad call by a referee. You know what I mean?
Well, Bill, every year in the spring at the NFL owners meetings, these head coaches get pulled into a room, and the league says, you say a thing about the referees or about the commissioner, you're in serious trouble. It's going to be expensive, and you have got to protect the game that way. You've got to. And so these coaches that are emotional, that want a physical football game, that they're trying to get wins, you see them week after week have to bite their lip and defend at sometimes just stupidity. But LaFleur opened up just a little bit more when we re-asked and said, well, okay, this is this. What ticked you off the most about that penalty call on the safety Jonathan Owens when he was, because you could see on the scoreboard,
right?
78,000 fans could see on the scoreboard, he was not out of bounds. He was in bounds. The play was live. Here's what Matt said.
The whole thing to me is just the consistency at which you call it. If you call it one way, call it that way the whole game, and call it for both teams. That's when you get frustrated, I think, is when you see inconsistencies, especially in game, because there's going to be differences within crews. We all see things a little bit differently, and that's fine. And you kind of know going into games, you always give your team the report on what this crew typically calls. If you feel it early in game, if they're going to call it tight, then you better adapt and change the way you play. Or if they're letting you play, then sometimes you can play a little bit more aggressive depending upon the position. Yeah, I think when there's clear and obvious situations, i.e., not talking about this specific play, but i.e. a hit when it's in bounds, yeah, you'd like to think that there could be something done to remedy that, but that's obviously above my pay grade.
And then you talk about some of these deals like hitting a guy, because we have seen quarterbacks fake to go out of bounds and then take off the field. We have seen them fake to slide. And how do you now teach guys to pull up, don't hit them, but yet quarterbacks are doing that, and they're still in bounds? Patrick Mahomes is still in bounds. He could have stutter-stepped a couple more times down the field, picked up even more yardage had he really kind of been trying to juke him. So what do you do?
Well, Jordan Love benefited from that week 2 against the Saints, as a matter of fact, Bill. And so here's what I wanted to let Packer fans know. What kind of a coach is Matt LaFleur? He's like, okay, let's, we don't want to hurt these guys. We don't want to get you caught. We don't want you to get ejected from the game. If he can use the sidelines to push a guy out of bounds, that's better than hitting him. Is Matt LaFleur actually deep down, I'd like to take their flipping heads off. Right. I want you to crush that guy. And I think people will be surprised that that's actually because you hear Matt, when he talks about like the 49ers or even the Lions, the way they play, very physical. He admires that. He lets his locker room and Joe Barry know about that. So LaFleur was asked, how do you want Joe Barry to coach your linebackers and corners, whether to push or hit the ball carrier out of bounds?
If they're in the field of play, you got to hit that guy. So I think J.O. did his job. It was clear to me that somebody was in the field of play, and so we're gonna keep coaching it that way, because I've also seen it. Shoot, I think Jordan had one earlier this year when we were playing New Orleans, where it appeared like he was going to go to bounds, and he scooted up the sideline for an extra 20 yards or whatever it was. So I get it. It's a tough situation. It's a tough position to be in at times, but you got to ensure that they go out of bounds. If it's pushing them out of bounds, it's pushing them out of bounds. I don't really care, but if you're in the field of play, you're fair game.
Mike, which I couldn't agree more. So I'm glad they teach that way. I mean, hit them till they're outside the white lines and then just push them, stick them even further. But the other aspect of that game the other night, remember when, it was Andy Reid that said, when asked about Jordan Love, he's like, who? Do you think Andy Reid left there on Sunday night knowing Jordan Love's name now?
I think so. And the league certainly did, or rather, everybody in the media now stood up and took notice that the game against Detroit on Thanksgiving wasn't a fluke. Look at that kid, the way he plants his feet, the accuracy had improved so much more on so many of those passes. Also, his receivers still diving, but putting their bodies on the line to make some of those catches, the timing and all that, and in the big spotlight. But I thought that this was a really interesting note. Because, you're going up against a Giants team where Wink Martindale kind of ripped apart Aaron Rodgers, broke down some things. Maybe we'll get to that later or later this week. But this was an interesting comment from a frustrated Andy Reid walking out the door, who, when you're watching Jordan Love and the play clock is 5 seconds, 4 seconds, and you're like, oh, my God, they're not getting the play in on time. He's not huddled. No, he's doing that intentionally, according to Andy Reid.
Listen, I mean, they made plays. I mean, they used the clock. They were letting it run down to that 5 seconds and below, and they were getting first down. So that becomes a problem. You got to get off the field on defense. You got to stay on the field on offense and not shoot ourselves.
Let's do this. That's Andy Reid talking about, trying to get off the field and what Jordan Love was doing to him. Mike Clemens joining us on the hotline. We got another segment with Mike coming up. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up right after this.
Oh, yeah. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's huge. For me personally, it's just obviously I've had this game, circled for a long time. It's my first start. Obviously didn't play how I wanted to the first game, so being able to see these guys again and get the victory is huge. This is a great team win tonight. Everybody just balled out, so it was an awesome win.
Welcome back to the program. Those are the words that Jordan Love talking about having that Chiefs game circled for a long time. Good to have you. Bill Michaels Huddle. We continue on. Packers off today, getting back at it tomorrow. Tomorrow is actually their Wednesday because they have a Monday night contest, another primetime game. So there you have it. That is happening tomorrow, happening on Monday Night Football in the Meadowlands in New York. Mike Clemens joining us on the hotline, brought to you by our friends at the Bay Motel Green Bay. Go to baymotelgreenbay.com. That's baymotelgreenbay.com. So, Mike, and that was, we were talking a little bit about Jordan Love and about the way he's played. And, if down the stretch he continues to play well, they don't stumble on a team that they shouldn't lose to. And who knows, maybe he puts them into the postseason. There could be a contract extension in the future for the young man.
Yeah, I'm interested. You played that clip because when he said that after the game Sunday night, I thought about it. I said, wow, that's the most in-your-face bulletin board thing that Jordan Love said about the opponent all year so far as the spokesperson for the team. So that's where his confidence is growing. I just thought that was interesting to say, for him to say, no, personally, I wanted to beat this team because they embarrassed me in my first start when Aaron went down with COVID. And speaking of Aaron, he's on the McAfee show yesterday, and one of the producers asked him this question.
Have you been surprised with what he's done over the last couple weeks here, kind of like confirming that, hey, maybe the Packers do finally have this next guy after Aaron and he is going to be the guy for the future?
No, I'm not. And he's playing especially the last 3 games, playing outstanding, but he's in his first year starting. As well as he's playing, can we not crown him right now?
Yeah.
For his own sake. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because we shouldn't do that to kids. We shouldn't crown him and we shouldn't cancel him. But can we let him play his career? It's both sides too. People, a great example is Geno Smith. People just kicked him out of this town.
They wrote him off.
And then he went and was a backup for 6 years. And then he went to a Pro Bowl. And sometimes it's situation. Sometimes it's change of scenery. Sometimes it's figuring something out. I do believe you can get better at accuracy, because you throw the football from the ground up. So you learn how to have great fundamentals. Everything else, when you sync those together, everything else is going to be better. Am I surprised by the way Jordan's played? No. Am I happy for him? Hell yeah. And there's some people that probably like this, but there's some people probably thinking that I was rooting against the Packers this year, rooting against Jordan. Couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm not a bitter person about that. Obviously, I wish things had gotten different when I was in Green Bay. And there's things that I wish I had done better. But I have so much love for the organization. I have so many people I still talk to, every single week that work there. If I catch Jordan's game, I just send him a message. Let's give him some time to develop. You crown somebody too early, the expectations, the weight of that is tough to deal with.
It's interesting. I mean, first of all, he's a little repentant there, Mike, when he said, I should have done things differently. Okay. And then he says, I wish things would have worked out differently. Do you think he's having regrets as to what's going on with him, the Jets, and all that franchise and such right now?
He's just added another chapter to what I started saying about 2 years ago. he's so frustrated. He feels like he's painted himself into a corner, and he's mentally burned out in Green Bay, and he needed to get out of there to prove once and for all, is it just him, or is it him, or was it the organization? And now we won't know because of the injury. He sounds a little bit like Brett there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Remember how Brett got to this year part of his career, and he started doing those Macbeth things, asking questions and then answering them?
Yeah, exactly.
And he's still talking about the Green Bay did some things wrong, whatever. I appreciate what he says, because what I try to do when I say, man, I'm just telling you, Anders Carlson made the worst field goal attempt I've ever seen on the practice field. He's got a strong leg, but oh my God, in the win. But I'm glad that he comes out there and proves me wrong. I've said, boy, Jordan Love is having a hard time hitting the deep ball, and he proved us right with that as a game. So I've never canceled a guy like I'm Stephen A. Smith, and I appreciate that on this show I don't have to say, yes, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. No, he sucks. They made a horrible mistake. Because I know there's some people do. They'll judge on what his tape was at, Utah State and all that. But I just appreciate that we're able to. That's the way I try and report these things, like the way Rodgers put it. But Rodgers needs to understand, dude, you're working for two people, a GM and coach that need to win this week, and people who like to bet on NFL games, which, by the way, that show is sponsored by. So people do ask for decisiveness. Is Zach Wilson ever going to be a quarterback? Yes or no? Make a decision. Let us know. And that's the business, Aaron. You get paid. Play along.
Did you follow? I know we only got about 30 seconds here. Did you follow any of the Zach Wilson drama over the last few days? And Aaron Rodgers saying, it's kind of an expletive-filled thing that words getting out.
And you know something? And it's you know what? And it's because this cloud follows Aaron wherever he goes.
Yep, no doubt. Mike, great stuff as always, bud. We'll talk to you later in the week, okay?
Thank you, Bill.
All right, buddy. There you go. 1 hour, that fast. 1 hour down. Got another hour yet to go. Bottom of the next hour, we get into the rest of the NFL. We start to make our picks. Oh, what a week of good games we have this week. Stay tuned. Another hour of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up. It's coming up right after this. Stay right where you're at.
This is the Wisconsin Sports Zone Update.
Well, the Bucks are in the semifinals of the NBA's first in-season tournament. That's after taking down the Knicks last night, 146-122. New York came into the game with the best scoring defense in the NBA, but Milwaukee topped that average by 41 points. It included 35 from Giannis, 28 from Damian Lillard. There was some happiness afterwards. Coach Adrian Griffin said the job is not finished.
Tonight was a, huge step. We wanted to get to Vegas, but, when we get to Vegas, we got to take care of business. We got 2 games to win there. Celebrate tonight. I thought we played an outstanding game. Give credit to the Knicks that, they were tough-minded group, well-coached group. But I thought tonight our team was the better team.
Bucks now move on, take on Indiana tomorrow in Las Vegas in the semifinals. Winner gets either Lakers or Pelicans in the finals. Every player on the winning team gets $500,000. Turning to Wisconsin, they also came up with a big win last night, going on the road to beat Michigan State 70-57. It was their 3rd straight win in East Lansing, something they hadn't done since the early 60s. Badgers have won 6 in a row overall and will now face number 1 Arizona on the road this Saturday.
2023 has been a great year for the members of LiUNA Wisconsin, their contractors, and other construction industry partners. LiUNA Wisconsin would like to wish you a safe, happy, and healthy holiday season. And it is not too early to start thinking about the new year. If you would like to learn more about a career as a member of LiUNA Wisconsin, where you will earn great union wages, healthcare, and a pension, please learn why you are worth so much more by visiting liunawisconsin.org.
Well, the Packers have added a veteran running back to their backfield. Kenyon Drake was signed to the practice squad yesterday, while James Robinson was cut. This will be Drake's 4th team this year. He did run for 482 yards with the Ravens last year. Packers getting ready to face the Giants on Monday night on the road. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
A Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Welcome in, talking football today and tonight, and great stuff. Now, earlier, I gotta retract something. Earlier today, even when you heard it in the interview earlier with Mark Schofield, we were talking about Trevor Lawrence, and he gets the high ankle sprain, comes off the field. He's on his knees. He can barely walk. And then he gets help going to the locker room. And the world was wondering, why in the world are you making this guy walk to the locker room? Well, Trevor Lawrence today said that they did have a cart available, and he refused it. Said, no, I'm going to the locker room. I'm walking. I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's just the grit and the obstinance and orneriness in him, which I would appreciate if I'm a Jags fan. But he refused the golf cart. Said, not going to take it. Not going to do it. Refused the golf cart. So that's part of the stories today. Also, you got Mike McCarthy with an emergency appendectomy. He says he will be on the sidelines come Sunday night when they take on the Philadelphia Eagles down in Dallas. But today started having some abdominal issues. Upon further review, they said you are having an appendicitis and rushed him to the hospital. He had surgery this afternoon, and he is resting, and everything apparently went well. But he says he'll be back on Sunday for sure. Speaking about being back, Von Miller is back with the Bills after his arrest for domestic violence. And the general manager of the Bills said that they're waiting for the details and let the process play out. The legal system will then play out. And he says that until then, Von Miller is available to play for the Buffalo Bills. And one other side note today to the NFL, Mason Crosby is back. He's back this time with the Rams, his first new team in his entire career, short of the first time he came into Green Bay. And he is with the Rams. Now he's in the practice squad. But nevertheless, Mason Crosby has been picked up, and that has been by the Rams. So that's kind of it. Oh, by the way, the Vikings did make a determination. Dobbs will be the quarterback, too. I saw that a little bit earlier today, too, that he is going to come back to quarterback, even though he's had a rash of turnovers since his successful opener when they picked him up right after Kirk Cousins went down with the ankle injury, with the Achilles injury. But they said Dobbs will be back. So.
I don't have audio of McCarthy or Dobbs, but I do have Trevor Lawrence explaining why he didn't want a cart today. If you want to hear,
yeah, let's do that. Let's take a listen to it.
Here's Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, we have an amazing medical staff that takes care of us and in every way that you could imagine. Anything that we need, they're always there. They work pretty much around the clock to take care of us. So we got one of, if not the best in the league. So there's I've heard what Amanda was telling me, kind of all the stuff that's been going on. And yeah, we talked about getting a cart, and I was going to get a cart, and then I'm standing there and, I'm already on the sideline at that point. The tunnel's right there. I just wanted to get off the field, get out of there. I didn't know what was going on with my ankle, and I felt like I could get off. And I was like, hey, you're good. Just don't bring it out. I'm going in. And then once I got in there, I'm like, this is a pretty long walk, but I was already there, and they asked again if I wanted a cart. I'm like, no, we're going to make it the whole way there. I didn't know there was cameras in the tunnel, so that's kind of, they're everywhere. Exactly. So, but no, of course we have carts and we have everything we need. And I was the one that didn't choose to take one, so you guys put that on me. Maybe that was dumb. Maybe I should have taken one, whatever. But it's nothing to do with us not having a cart available. I don't think that would happen in the National Football League, especially here with the crew that we have. So, yeah.
So I have two comments about that, Bill.
Yes.
Number one, I feel like someone was like, hey, can you go up there and maybe point out that, we have golf carts? Can you make sure the world knows that we have carts? And also, this is the most masculine dumb guy thing ever. I've been out at the bar with buddies. We're like, should we get an Uber home? It's the middle of winter. We're like, no, we'll walk. It's fine. It's not even far. We'll just walk. And it's like a 45-minute walk home. Men we resist help. It's what we do. I don't know why we do it, but we do. So I can relate to this totally.
Yeah. He, whatever. I'll just walk. I'm good. Yeah. Well, you would, you're glad it's a high ankle sprain and nothing more. But had they not known that and he's walking around on, say, a torn Achilles tendon or something, or a tendon in the foot or something to that extent, that he doesn't do any more damage moving around on it. But Trevor Lawrence, hey, we had a cart. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So more quarterbacks going down in the National Football League. And another piece of news and notes, the Buffalo Bills. Remember, they fired their offensive coordinator. The good news for Josh Allen and the Bills is that under interim offensive coordinator Joe Brady, not Joe Barry, but Joe Brady, over the past couple of games, the team has turned the ball over on less than 8.3% of their drives, which is the lowest rate this season outside of the 0 turnovers they had between weeks 2 and 4, which is far below the team's average of 17.3% of drives entering week 11. So limiting the throws downfield should help. And as 10 of Josh Allen's 13 interceptions have come on throws 15 yards or more in the air, the Bills also get a boost if they had more consistency from the receivers, and that's apparently been an area as well where they've had 17 drops in the past 3 games. So we're talking about all this different quarterback play and some of the problems and the worries and injuries, and in Buffalo, they're like, wait a minute, 17 drops in 3 games. Normally, that's like a season. In 3 games. And having the ball, in the air more than 15 yards and then getting it picked off on long throws downfield, that's been part of the problem as well. So they feel they figured it out too. So there you go. A lot of news and notes when it comes to the NFL right there. The other aspect of this, and we got a quick note, Jordan Love has shown that he has had the improvement. Speaking of quarterbacks, we all know that. And a month ago, it looked bad. It looked like they were going to go into 2024 with it at the very least quarterback competition, right? And, they got to consider a new deal, maybe a long-term deal. We'll have to wait and see. But 4 straight games now, Jordan Love, multiple touchdown passes, and 3 straight without an interception. So if he continues down that path, then he's going to have quite a payday coming to him at the end of the season. When we were talking about that a little bit earlier, what is warranting that? Again, he's playing incredible football. You would assume that level is not sustainable, but if he continues on that path, man, oh man, he's going to give you some cash at the end of the year. 877-867-1670. And the other argument we had earlier today, we were discussing Joe Barry, because the defense, and I started getting emails on this saying, well, wait a minute, Joe Barry's defense didn't start playing good until 4 games ago. Nay. And it was like 1 or 2 people. It wasn't a rash, but no, that's just not true. Joe Barry's team, his defense, remember, first of all, when it comes to scoring, they're top 10. They're not good against the rush. That's admitted. They gave up far too many rushing yards, 211 to be exact, against the Falcons, 211 yards against the Lions in rushing. After that, they held the Raiders to 17 points, the Broncos to 19 points. They got beat by the Vikings, where the offense basically did nothing. They got beat 24-10. Were on the field far too much. They held the Rams to 3 points. The Steelers beat them 23-19. They maybe had a drive or 2 in there that weren't very good, but other than that, not a bad game. Since then, they beat the Chargers 23-20. They beat the Lions 29-22, and they beat the Chiefs 27-19. Which gives you 21.6 points per game. A little bit above their average, but still keeps them right in the thick of things. The defense, and if you go back prior to that, 23 points, 3 points, 24 points, 19 points, 17 points. Not a bad way to go. The defense really has not been the problem. It's been the fact that there's not much support for from the offense, and that's put the defense on their heels. Now, and also a good article today talking about what has been a turnaround, what has been so good about the Packers defense. And as one scout of a team that is about to play the Packers in the coming weeks stated, it's the offense. When they're playing complementary football, they get off to a fast lead. They get a good start. The defense plays more free. Joe Barry plays with a little more pressure. They kind of play with their ears pinned back, like a lot of defenses do when they have a lead. But things have changed and made that defense different and looks so much better because they're playing with a lead, because the defense is now getting complementary football from the offense. So a lot of that stuff going on. Joe Barry's defense hasn't been that bad. Not at all. Good article today from Rob Demoski and ESPN talking about everything they've done, where they were a couple of months ago, how the offense and the cries for Joe Barry, regardless of how bad the offense was playing, just wasn't getting key stops at key times. But they're getting the turnovers. They're in the right place at the right time, playing more free, playing with a lead, pinning their ears back. It's been a lot better. It's been a lot better. So, anyway, that being said, and also Keyshawn Nixon says it's part of the film study that they've paid attention to when they saw something that Patrick Mahomes was going to do. And that's the reason he was back in defense on that interception in the fourth quarter. So things seem to at least be trending in the right direction. In the meantime, the New York Giants stink. They're a bad football team. And that's the next opponent for the Green Bay Packers. We're going to talk more about that when we come back, because the Giants, they're calling this a rebuilding year. At this point last year, they were 7-4-1, and they were in the driver's seat for a playoff berth. You know, this year, they stink. They enter their bye week at 4-8, the worst point differential in the NFL. The worst point. They are negative 133 points. Negative 133. Now, they're getting votes of confidence, saying from their owner and their general manager, saying, look, still feels like, they're on board. They understand the process, what they're doing, the communication, very helpful, they say. And when the GM and Dable get together, what they've got going for them, they're a package deal. They came together, and they, obviously have, contracts that coincide with one another. And the closest coach and GM combination to come through this organization in decades up in New York. So they don't want to blow things off. So we'll talk a little bit more about how bad the Giants are and how this has been for them when we come back. So stay tuned. Stick around. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up this portion of the program, brought to you by our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And you know, I love me some Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Not only for the safety at night. I mean, when you lock them up, you put the levers down, you put the toe kicks in the doors, you're great. You're sound, secure. You're sleeping with peace of mind every damn night. And that's huge. That's worth the money. Then you get into the economical factor and the fact that they keep the cold air out and the hot air in, which is awesome in the wintertime. Just flip it around in the summertime. And also so many different types of windows and doors, whether it's, say, the vinyl or Impervia, which is as strong as, if not stronger than, fiberglass. Then you've got different styles of wood windows and doors, not to mention the hardware, the innovations, the different curb appeal that it gives your home. So there's so many, the value it adds to your home. There's so many reasons to go with Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Call them 855-PELLA-WI. That's 855-PELLA-WI. Or just simply go to PellaWI.com. That is PellaWI.com. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Nothing but faith in nothing. I want to put my town to heart in a blender. Want to stay around to a beautiful oblivion.
Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. The Huddle tonight on a Wednesday night. Reminding you, next Wednesday, we're going to be in Viroqua. The Norwegian Hollow. We're coming. Going to be out there on Tuesday night, Wednesday all day. Looking forward to it. So hopefully you can join us. 6 to 8 next Wednesday night. We're going to be at the Norwegian Hollow out there in Viroqua, Wisconsin. Looking forward to that. It's always fun. Always a good time to go out there. Good stuff. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Mark says the most impressive thing about this run for the defense has been the offense that has started to pick it up. Sometimes you just have to keep the defense off the field. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, the Packers, if you go back to the game the other day in the long run when they started off so hot, they had 2 back-to-back drives that were really solid. I mean, they started off extremely well and 2 double-digit play drives that the Packers were able to kind of get that defense early on. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, don't get me wrong, they went down 13 plays, 70 yards, but they ended up kicking a field goal because the defense stiffened on the first 2 drives. But the Packers, 13 plays, 75 yards, a long drive. Then they get the ball back and they go 8 plays, 75 yards again and eat up time off the clock. And they ended up putting the ball in the end zone twice before then they go 8 plays, 43 yards, another decent drive, and they ended up punting it away. They only had 3 possessions in the first half of that game. That was it because Kansas City went 13 plays, 70 yards. They kicked a field goal because the defense stiffened. Same thing, 14 plays, 69 yards. And they get it again down to the Packers 16 twice, not once, but twice. Packers ended up coming big defensively, and then they forced them into a field goal position. And Kansas City, the same thing. They only had 1 play after that in the first half where they took the knee. And really the Packers on that 8-play, 43-yard drive, they shot themselves in the foot. I didn't like the play calling down inside the red zone. And then they ended up committing penalties. And the pitch play that got stuffed, it's like they got away from what got them there over the first couple of drives. So I thought that was kind of a wasted opportunity, and I circled that because I thought, boy, you hope that doesn't come back to bite them. So they go in at halftime 14-6, and then the very next time that Kansas City touches the football, which was their 4th possession, but that was in the 3rd quarter, 9 plays, 90 yards, touchdown. And then the Packers, then they returned the favor. 7 plays, 67 yards, and a touchdown. And that quick, bam, 2nd quarter, gone. Or 3rd quarter, gone. And then the Packers sent it back to Kansas City, who again, 11 plays, 61 yards. They racked up the yardage. I mean, when you talk about 13 plays, 14 plays, 9 plays, 11 plays, towards the end of the game, 10 plays, 37 yards. They racked up the yardage, but when it counted the most, those first two drives specifically, the Packers were able to get to some pressure on Patrick Mahomes. They sacked him. Lucas Van Ness actually got to him. Preston Smith got to him, and they forced field goals on those drives. So, sometimes your best offense or your best defense is your offense on the field, long sustained drives, keeping the defense off the field. But that defense against that offense, they did bend, but they only broke a couple of times. Remember, they had the drive before the last drive of the game for Kansas City. Kansas City, they go 11 plays, 61 yards in the fourth quarter. They scored. Then the Packers the D stiffened. They go 3 plays, 2 yards, punt. 2 plays, 9 yards. That's when Keyshawn Nixon picked off Patrick Mahomes. So they ran a total of 5 plays for 11 yards, and the Packers got a punt and a pick. That if you want to take the defense and put them in the game and where you thought they were going to give it up and you thought they were going to give up the lead, circle that, because that was a big moment in time in that fourth quarter. Total of 5 plays, 11 yards, a punt, and a pick. That right there was the determining factor of the game. Big time.
I think we may be underserved on Monday and yesterday, Bill. How good the Packers from the jump, how good of a job they did just keeping Mahomes on the sideline.
Yeah.
They set the tone for that game in the first drive. They said, here's how this game's going to be played, and they established themselves. I don't know that we talked about that enough.
No, you're right. 13 plays, 75 yards, a lot of clock usage, running the football is what they were doing. They started off. It was interesting because they call it a pass, but it wasn't. It was Reed comes around and gets that little pitch and for 9 yards. So that started off really well. Then A.J. Dillon for 3 yards. Then, remember, Jordan Love right away. Again, we're going to establish downfield. They go deep over the middle to Christian Watson, 19-yard pickup before he's drugged down, 19 yards. Then you go shotgun again. A.J. Dillon, hand it off, 3 yards, keep him honest, and that one, by the way, so you had Reed coming around the right end, the left end. Then you had the next one with an end around, but that was out of the backfield, a quick pitch to A.J. Dillon going around the opposite end. And that's when I said they're keeping the edge honest, because this is a team in the Kansas City Chiefs who like to rush the passer and like to collapse. And then you bring Chris Jones up the gut, and suddenly you know where to go. And that's how they get it done. Where they're susceptible is if you can keep them honest on the outside, you can run against them a little bit. And that's what the Packers did. It was a brilliant, brilliant play calling, I think, for the first few drives of that game, without a doubt. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. This one's from Mark, who says, after listening to Aaron Rodgers, do you think he regrets leaving Green Bay? An interested Packers fan listening to us out in New York. I think, I don't know. He just seems so hell-bent on not being here. And now that things are going well, the Packers are playing well, the young guys are starting to kind of pick it up. He's seeing what Jordan Love can do and realizing, holy mackerel, if I was there guiding these young guys, if I was there with this young group of talented tight ends, if I was there guiding that offensive line and knowing those schemes, we could probably have already won a couple more games. I'd be better off in Green Bay in a weaker NFC than I am sitting on the sidelines getting hurt on that turf at MetLife Stadium with all the guys that I wanted to bring in. The New York media screaming about me now, fans screaming about me now. They've gotten rid of Tim Boyle. They have given Alan Lazard basically the warning shot of, if you suck anymore, you're not even going to play, because they gave him as a healthy scratch. We know this is probably Cobb's last year. Hindsight being what it is, maybe he's feeling bad it went down that way. Maybe
when Mike played that cut, I heard that as more as him saying, I wish we would have got back to another Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think he realized that the divorce was going to happen, and sure, it was a little awkward, but I heard that as, I wish we would have got back to another Super Bowl. I wish we could have won some of those playoff games.
Yeah, no, that's probably more likely. That's probably more likely that, and again, he's probably got a few regrets of things that he did, the way he played, things he didn't do, as opposed to some of the things that he did do, maybe some of the things he did or didn't say. I mean, I don't know how he handled things, but yeah, now here's the other thing. The guy that you turn the reins over to is, do you think Jordan Love this year is a better leader than Aaron Rodgers was last year?
I think he's a better fit for this team. I think he's more connected with all of these young wide receivers and tight ends, and they're at a more similar stage in their career.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's a better or worse leader. I think he's more connected. You see how amped these guys are for him.
Yeah.
And you listen to him talk about, they're so happy that Jordan Love is succeeding.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes him a great leader. I think he's more in line with the young guys on this roster, and it's a really young roster.
You're probably right, a better fit. But when I think about it, when you think about the better fit, why is he a better fit? Because he's young, or because he's more relatable to the guys and hangs with the guys and talks to the guys and he doesn't put on airs with the guys? And, he's not, the guys are pulling for him and want to work with him. They're not in awe of him or afraid of him. There was all this talk about Rodgers and stroking the ego and giving him what it wants. And, we talked about it last year. You wonder if there's some people in there that resent some of the treatment that Aaron Rodgers has got as opposed to what everybody else is being asked to do. So you're maybe more connected to what the reality of this team and the mindset of this team is and the personality of what this team is. That might be a better term.
Rodgers, not a great fit with the young roster last year. I don't know that he would have been a great fit this year, unless he's playing so great that it doesn't matter. But I don't know that he can still play at that level at age 40. We'll have to see. He'll be coming off an Achilles. But I think part of it is not his fault. He's just older. That's not his fault. He's just at a very different point in his life. But there's also part of Rodgers, like, he wants to do it his way. And it's up to everyone else to also do it his way.
Right.
And I guess he has that right. He's really great and has been for a long time. But I don't know that that's the best way to go about it. So, well, these young guys can learn my way. It's like, well, meet him in the middle. And I don't know if Rodgers was ever going to do that.
Yep. No doubt. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. And when we do, we're going to start to look around the rest of the NFL. You got some great games on tap this week, and it's going to culminate on Monday night with not one, but two Monday night games. In case you didn't know, two Monday night games again. So, and that the later game being the Green Bay Packers, the better one being the Green Bay Packers. So we got two Monday night games coming up, and we're going to go through that really tremendous slate of games on tap this coming weekend. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Quick Trip. Stop at the Quick Trip, get all the details about how to win a pickup truck, how to win a snowmobile, how to win, say, a Packers Pro Shop gift card. So much good stuff going on at Quick Trip. Got to use the Quick Rewards card, though. Got to check your rewards, check your visits, all that kind of stuff. See where your rewards points are going. Get entered, 1 time, 10 times, 20 times. And who knows, maybe you could be driving home in a new pickup truck. You could be driving around on the trails with a brand new sled, whatever. They've got it all at Quick Trip. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back to Bill Michaels Huddle. We now take a look around the entire NFL. And we start to dispel our wisdom or our crap. One of the two. There you go. That might be the best way to put it.
I was going to say, you don't sound so, you don't sound like you believe when you say our wisdom.
Our wisdom or our crap, depending on how you look at it. Where are we after now 13 weeks of the regular season?
So you've hit 90 of 169 picks, couple pushes mixed in there. So you're at 53%. I'm at 91 of 168. So we're within a pick or two. We're both sitting between 53 and 54%, which is pretty good.
Which is good.
It's not bad.
Which is good. You do that. If you do that your entire career, you're going to make a lot of money if you're betting a lot of money. There you go. All right. Coming up tomorrow night, you have got a massive... I'd watch this game. I'd have the Bucks on one channel and this game on in your restroom, in your home. It's a stinker of a game. But tomorrow night, you got the Patriots and the Steelers. No Kenny Pickett, high ankle sprain, getting surgery. Patriots suck. There you have it. That's where we start tonight.
I was listening to a little clip of some Boston sports talk radio because I wanted to hear what they said. And they made the point that neither the Chargers nor the Patriots got inside a 20-yard line last weekend. They said you could have put bleachers at each of the 20-yard lines and filled it in. Not that anyone would have paid to sit there,
right?
But they literally could have closed off the both red zones because neither the Chargers nor the Patriots actually got there last weekend. And this line, I actually highlighted this, Bill, because this is funny. New England is at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is without their quarterback. They're not a great team fundamentally. They haven't been all year, and they're 6-point favorites. That shows how little Vegas probably rightfully thinks of New England.
And their backup quarterback is
Mitch Trubisky.
Do you know New England's offense averages 12.3 points per game?
My God.
You and I could do that.
They've scored less than 10 points, in 3 or 4 straight games? Yeah. The stat I heard is that hasn't been done since the 30s.
Yeah.
It's been almost 100 years since the team has had this bad of a stretch offensive.
They could not suck anymore if they had to. I am, even with Mitch Trubisky, now what's the spread in this game?
Pittsburgh -6.
Oh, that's too big a spread.
You think so?
Too big a spread, yeah. Too big a spread. I'll take New England. No, it's on the road. It's in Pittsburgh. I'll take New England because I think this is going to be a game of like 13-10, maybe 17-13. I think 6 points is too much. I'm going to go with New England.
I think if this game gets to double digits for both teams, it would shock me. I think the only way New England covers in this game is if they hold Pittsburgh to 7 or fewer points. And I don't think they can do that because Pittsburgh's a real NFL team with the offense might suck, but it's a real NFL offense. I'll take Pittsburgh, but I would steer clear of this game and not bet.
The one side of this is that New England's defense still is not good, even with Bill Belichick trying to take away the best thing you can do. They're still giving up over 20 points a game, 21.2 to be exact, while Pittsburgh's defense is 19.1, and they are now plus 10. While New England is -9. That is a 19-point swing in turnovers. I mean, that's ridiculous. Pittsburgh's going to win, but I think New England can do just enough to cover.
I'm not going to watch that game. I'm in for you on Friday. I probably have to watch that game because I'll have to talk about it the next morning.
I'm going to have it on. I'll be sitting at Stenny's tomorrow night watching it with the Bucks on one channel, football on the other, eating some wings and enjoying my time. But if I had to sit down and study that game, I'd run out into the garage and just slam it in a car door.
I'll take notes. I can forward you my notes in an email if you would like me to do.
You could just, it's going to be one word. It sucks.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And I'll just put it in the subject line. The noon games on Sunday, Tampa Bay at Atlanta. We have all of the NFC South teams are playing each other this weekend, so it's easy to avoid. One of those matchups is Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Atlanta -1.5. Who do you like?
I'm going to take Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield, not a terrible season, 2,790 passing yards so far. He can reach 3,000 yards for the 5th time in his 6 career seasons. These two met last time. He had 275 yards, a touchdown, and a pick going back to week 7. Has 2+ TD passes and 90+ quarterback rating in 5 of his 6 road starts this season. So I'm gonna take Tampa Bay. I'll take Tampa Bay to win this game and cover the points, the whole deal.
I picked Atlanta last week, and they made me look like a bunch of asses. So, well, actually, no, I picked the Jets. Either way, I'm not betting Atlanta. I'm not going to do that to myself, so I'll take Tampa Bay. The next noon game, Detroit at Chicago. Detroit is favored by 3.5 points. It seems like that number could be a little bigger. Is this Vegas saying that Chicago is doing some things, or maybe there's a little skepticism of where Detroit is right now?
I think both. I think there's skepticism on Detroit, especially in the fact that these two teams only met a couple of weeks ago, remember?
And it was close.
And it was a close game. The Detroit had to come back and win that game, or the Bears were going to win it.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, or a couple of weeks ago, Jared Goff, 213 yards, a couple of touchdowns, no picks. He aims for his 5th in a row with 2+ TDs, and he's got 12 touchdown passes versus 3 picks in his past 6 games against Chicago. I'm taking the Lions. They're going to clean up their act. They're going to go into that dump that is Soldier Field. They get the win. They cover the whole thing.
I'll take Detroit too. Chicago's offense is not good enough to expose Detroit's weakness in the secondary and on TV. They're just going to throw a bunch of wide receiver screens, and if Jared Goff doesn't turn the ball over, Detroit should win by a touchdown or more. Indy at Cincinnati. Gardner Minshew versus Jake Browning. The Colts are favored by 1. They won in overtime last week. What do you like?
Yeah, they've won 4 straight games for the first time since 2018, I think. And Gardner Minshew, I don't know what that equates to, but when it probably 2018, that was probably Andrew Luck early on in his mid portion of his career. So that's probably Andrew Luck. Gardner Minshew not playing bad football. Cincinnati with Browning, and they got all kinds. That win made them believers again. Like they can just hang on. The problem is, Joe Burrow's not walking through that door come the postseason. He's done until next year, no doubt. Indianapolis's offense usually averages about 25.5 points a game. Cincinnati's defense gives up 22.5. I'm going to go with Indy. I think Indy's going to win the game. As much as I thought maybe Cincinnati might get a little juice out of that Monday night contest, they went and played on the road Monday night. It takes a toll. I'm taking Indianapolis to go into Paycor Stadium and get the win.
I'll take Cincinnati at home. I don't really have a good lean. I just want to pick someone other than you. And I'm going to believe that Jake Browning start maybe did give him something. It'll be interesting to see.
I tell you what was he, 32 of 37?
Yeah.
350 plus yards. I mean, he made a believer out of a lot of people, no doubt.
Now, the next game is Jacksonville at Cleveland. Cleveland's favored by 3. This would lead me to believe that Vegas doesn't think Trevor Lawrence is going to play. I don't think I would be shocked if he plays. Who do you like, assuming Jacksonville's probably going to play a backup?
I'm going to take Cleveland. Their defense has given up just a tick over 20 points a game. Jacksonville doesn't have much of an offense without Trevor Lawrence. And when it comes to passing yards, Cleveland flat out gets after it defensively. They're giving up only 153 yards per game, and they just flat out get after it. I'm taking the Cleveland Browns. As much as it pains me to see the Cleveland Browns go to 8-5 on the season, I'm taking Cleveland to get the win in this thing.
I will take Cleveland and Myles Garrett against a backup quarterback. I like that matchup. I said that all the NFC South teams are matched up. You can ignore Tampa Bay, Atlanta. No reason to watch that. And the next game you can also ignore Carolina at New Orleans. The Saints are favored by 5 at home. Who do you like in this one?
Saints all damn day. Carolina's only averaging, they're under 16 points per game. They're terrible. I mean, they're only 170 yards per game through the air, 95 yards-ish on the ground. Now, New Orleans defense is giving it up. Don't get me wrong. They're giving up almost 200 passing yards a game and 125 yards on the ground a game. So you can run against them, but just when it comes to scoring, Carolina just doesn't put the ball in the end zone. And at least you give the nod to New Orleans on this one. I'll take New Orleans at home to cover.
One of my favorite things to do every week is to bet against Derek Carr.
Right.
But
you can't.
I can't bet on the Panthers. The Saints, I guess. I wouldn't want to spend my money on this. I certainly wouldn't want to watch it. So Godspeed to both of these fan bases. 2 more noon games, and then we can move on to 3 o'clock. Houston, they're at the Jets. Houston minus 3.5 against Zach Wilson, we learned today.
I'm going to take Houston. I think this is the last hurrah for Zach Wilson. Now, again, they don't have anybody else, so it's not like they can just cut him, but this is it. I know there's going to be all this talk about giving the kid confidence. It's all the roads they've been down before, and all the roads are basically filled with shacks and boxes that are from refrigerators, and it's a homeless village, and nobody lives there. Nobody goes down that road anymore. It's done. So the Jets get shot and put out of their misery. They go to 4-9 on the season. Houston will go to 8-5 as well. And I'm taking C.J. Stroud and company. They just look so good.
No, they're without Tank Dell, but the Jets scored, 8 points against the Falcons at home last weekend. I just can't bet I can't bet on the Jets.
No.
I can't. They've shown me no reason to. They've given me no reason to. No. Last noon game, the Rams are in Baltimore. Now, the Rams are back up to 6-6, very similar to the Packers. They struggled, and then they've really turned it around. Baltimore's still a touchdown favorite, though, so Vegas not buying into the Rams too much.
No, I'm going with Baltimore. Baltimore is at home. Rams going West Coast to East Coast, flying directly across the heart of the country. Never bodes well for a team that has to fly that far. The Rams defense has given up just over 21 points a game, but the Baltimore offense, they're going almost 28 points per game. They lead the NFL in rushing, and the rushing defense for the Rams is not good. They're giving up almost 112 yards a game. No, I'm taking Baltimore. They're going to win for so many reasons.
I'll take Baltimore, too. They were on bye last week. I like Baltimore. They're playing good. And the Rams are a lot like the Packers. They've won some games. They're doing some things right, but they're still not one of these elite contending teams like Baltimore. So give me the Ravens.
We got a whole host of games yet to go, including the Green Bay Packers coming up on Monday night. 2 games on Monday night, as a matter of fact. Stay tuned. Got more. The Bill Michaels Huddle. We wrap it up. Coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Bill Michaels Huddle, welcome back. We are glad you're on board with us. shout out to our friends at Cunis Automotive, Cunis RV, Cunis Automotive, and their RV dealerships. They continue to grow. RV-wise, they're all over the state of Wisconsin. Whether it's for service, storage, new, used, whatever, go to Cunis, K-U-N-E-S, CunisRV.com. That is CunisRV.com. Good stuff. And we're back at it. Let's get back into the second portion of the slate of games coming up this weekend throughout the National Football League.
The National Football League. The 3 o'clock games are a lot better, especially towards the end of the day. So let's start with Minnesota at Las Vegas. Josh Dobbs is going to be the starter. Minnesota favored by 3. Would imagine that Vikings fans are probably going to travel out there pretty well.
I am going, and it's interesting because you got both Minnesota and Las Vegas almost identical in the points they score per game and give up per game. Minnesota's defense, not nearly as good, but Las Vegas's offense sucks. So this is on the road. Minnesota's favored by 3. I'm going to take Minnesota to win by 4 or more, but I don't feel good about this game. I just don't.
I was going to take Minnesota as well. Justin Jefferson's going to be back unless something insane happens. They've held him out, I think, probably a week or 2 longer than they even needed to. And they're coming off a bye. So Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, I just don't think Vegas can stop that.
Right.
And I don't think Josh Dobbs will turn the ball over 3 or 4 times like we saw a couple weeks ago. So I'll take the Vikings. Seattle is at San Francisco. We got a couple big interconference and interdivision rivalries throughout the rest of the day. So Seahawks are in Santa Clara, and the Niners are favored by 10.5.
Oh. And that's at Levi Stadium, Santa Clara, California. God, correct. 10.5 is such a big number. I mean, Geno Smith had a decent game, 4 touchdowns in a losing effort. And Seattle's now 6-6. I mean, this is a game they have to have. Where San Francisco's, you know what? I'm going to take Seattle to cover, but San Francisco to win. I'm going to take Seattle to cover. Seattle has to have this. They have to. And maybe San Francisco's coming back home a little bit full of themselves, although Brock Purdy's looked really good. 314 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks in Week 13. Became the 3rd quarterback ever behind Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers with 4 games of 3 touchdowns or more and a quarterback rating of 140 in a single season. So it's time to start talking about Brock Purdy being the real deal as well. So as much as I want to go with San Francisco just because I know they're going to win the game, I think Seattle at least puts up a hell of a fight because they have to have this one. So I'm going to say Seattle covers this one.
I'll take San Francisco. I like the idea that Seattle's going to fight. I just think over the course of 4 quarters, San Francisco's healthy. They got all their stars ready. I just don't think Seattle's going to be able to do enough no matter how hard they play. This should be a good game. I think it could matter. I'm not sure. Buffalo is at Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Kansas City favored by 1.5. I've kind of done away with the idea that Buffalo could make the playoffs, but I guess we've seen weirder things happen. But Buffalo, like Seattle, would have to have this game, Bill. Kansas City minus 1.5.
Kansas. Oh, man. Can Kansas City lose again? I mean, Buffalo on offense, they average almost 123 yards a game running the football. Kansas City's defense is not that good when it comes to stopping the run. They're giving up about 115 yards a game. I'm taking Buffalo to win on the road. That's sacrilege. I understand it, but I'm taking it. This is a game Buffalo absolutely has to have. I'm taking it. Although, I mean, Josh Allen now, too. Don't forget, 339 yards passing last week and 81 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns going back a couple of weeks. I'm going with Josh Allen.
Historically, Josh Allen's been really good against the Chiefs. He's always performed at Arrowhead. I think the coverage unit of Kansas City, those corners, are going to be able to stick with Diggs and Davis, some of those wide receivers, which is going to force Buffalo to play slow and march up and down the field. And I just don't know if they can do it without turning the ball over. I'm going to bet Kansas City because I always bet the Chiefs. I would rather be wrong betting the Chiefs than betting the Bills. That's essentially why I'm making this pick. Denver at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers favored by 3, which is interesting because Denver's coming off, they had 5 wins in a row. And I said last week, I think it ends against Houston. Some bad turnover luck finally bit them. And even though Denver's looked really good, and even though the Chargers won 6-0 against the Patriots, Vegas still has the Chargers by 3. Who do you like?
I am taking the Denver Broncos. I'm going with Denver. Yeah. Denver's on the road. It doesn't matter. I think they're going to have a good game. They're on a faster track. They're not playing any elements. The Chargers, look, at home, that's fine. You can talk about, the home field advantage at SoFi and all that kind of stuff. And but the Chargers are just such a bad team. By the way, speaking of SoFi, the Chargers are only 2-4 at home. 2-4. Which is part of the reason I'll go with Russell Wilson on the road in this one. So I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos to get the win. And Denver's ahead of them in the division. So being a divisional game, this is a big one for Denver.
That pick from you tells me that you think the Chargers suck. And I think I might agree.
I think they're terrible. And I think Staley is as good as he's dead man walking. Him and Riverboat Ron Rivera.
Philly at Dallas. Dallas minus 3.5. I'll go quick first. I think Dallas rolls in this game. I love Dallas. What do you think?
It pains me because you got the Philadelphia Eagles coming off of an ugly loss. But Dak Prescott is lighting it up. I'm gonna regret this. I'm gonna take Dallas, but I'm gonna regret it.
Let's go.
I'm gonna regret it.
Come on over to the dark side. All right, 2 Monday night games real quickly. Tennessee at Miami. Miami minus 13. What do you think of that one?
Miami blows them out. I'll take Miami and given the points. I think Miami is just too much of a juggernaut.
I will take that as well. Miami loves beating bad teams. And then the Packers at the Giants. Packers minus 6.5. Let's talk about this.
They started out at 5. The big money must be coming in now on the Packers. They're trying to slow the roll on this thing. I'm going to take the Packers to win and to cover on the road, knock off the Giants, pretty much put the final nail in their coffin for the season. Not that everybody already thinks that they're going to be dead in the water anyway, but this is it. And to beat another New York team, or to beat a New York team in the Meadowlands, and to have who will have played better in the Meadowlands this year, Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers? There you go. I'm going with Jordan Love. I'm going with the Packers to get the win. And I've been picking against the Packers. So now I pick for them. I don't want to get burned.
We just need Jordan Love to run out with an American flag before the game.
Oh, no.
I will take the Packers. I'm not as worried about a letdown because it's on Monday Night Football. So I think these guys will get up no matter the opponent just because it's a primetime game. Right. And I don't think Dexter Lawrence is going to play. And he might pound for pound be the Giants' best player right now, their nose tackle.
Plus,
so I like
the cabbie that was in charge of everybody on the show, Taxi, DeVito, he's under center. I think that's the same guy.
And their quarterback sucks. And we should mention that too.
Yeah, there you go. That'll do it. Back at it again tomorrow until we talk again. Time for us to go. Thanks to Mike Clemens as well for making an appearance on the program.